the darkness where the light cannot follow and the hearts are all hollow.
Boy, that is a view.
It is pretty. Have you ever been here before?
No, I think maybe driving through, but I actually haven't ever stayed here or anything like that.
So when you read this file, our victim, Harold Behan, 63 years old, he's just a simple guy, not bothering anybody, minding his own business, just like my dad. All Daddy wanted to do was fish and drink and hunt. Friendly to everybody in the whole town. Who in the heck would want to kill him?
Sad deal, you know, just a sad deal.
When I first read the case of Harold Behill, I felt immediately connected to the case because he reminded me so much of my dad. He was hardworking, he was a devoted dad to his 2 grown kids, and he loved the outdoors. And his shocking murder was a tragedy to everybody that knew him.
He's got that little world of friends. He's got like a girlfriend he probably gives a peck on the cheek at night. He's such a low-risk victim, you'd never expect this to happen.
On July the 1st, 2016, Harold left his girlfriend's house around 11 p.m. and returned home. 5 days later, his daughter Valerie discovered his severely decomposed body on the top step of his doorway. His face was almost unrecognizable.
You go to those scenes where you've got a badly decomposing body and bullet holes don't look like bullet holes, stab wounds don't look like stab wounds. You know, they did look at the shirt, they didn't see a hole initially. And then unfortunately, it looks like the clothing was taken off and destroyed.
And then he's cremated.
And he's cremated right away. It was initially believed that Harold died of natural causes. But months later, a review of a CT scan taken at the time of Harold's death revealed a bullet fragment in his spine, indicating that Harold had actually been murdered. When investigators spoke with Harold's family, one name quickly emerged as a suspect. His uncle, David Vigil, who actually lived right next door to Harold and had been feuding with him for decades. It's a theory that has haunted the family ever since.
The house where this happened, Harold left it to Valerie, his daughter. Every day when she comes home, she's walking right past the spot where her dad ended up dying and then had to live blocks away, feet away from the person they thought might be responsible.
I just can't imagine that. But she deserves an answer here.
It has been 16 years and still no answer.
Police consider her killing a cold case.
Years later, the case is still unsolved.
I've chosen cold cases from across the country and teamed up with the best detectives to solve them. We're more determined than ever to bring justice to these victims. You gonna help me through these rocks?
You got your high heels on?
You gotta do something
I thought you
useful.
weren't prissy.
Hello, guys.
How you doing?
How you doing?
Steve Spingola.
James Lujan, Sheriff.
Thank you, sir. I'm Kelly, sir. Nice to meet you.
Paul Colombo.
Nice to meet you, Steve.
Nice to meet you.
Spingola.
George Martinez.
Nice to meet you, sir.
How are you? Really appreciate you guys coming out and helping us out
We're
with this
excited.
case.
Do you think we can stay hidden and covert for a few days before everybody in the town knows what's happening?
Probably. Nobody's going to want to talk to him. He looks like a
He
failure.
looks like a Yankee, doesn't he?
I'll dress down, don't worry.
Y'all got a good place for us to work?
I sure do. Come on in.
Let's go.
I grew up in the area, and it's a very small, tight-knit community. We've put a lot of our time and effort on this case. It's very important to our department. We want to get justice for the family, but we also want to get this community feeling safe again.
So we got a picture here of Harold Behan, and he was how old when he died, guys?
63.
63 years old.
Through all the family members that we've talked to, friends, he was a great person. Would take the shirt off his back for anybody. Worked for many, many, many years doing carpentry work. So he was always taking care of his family. Loved the outdoors, loved to fish, loved to hunt and hiking.
He had his horses, a lot of camping trips.
This is Harold with who?
That's Harold's daughter, Valerie.
She's the one that's been like the driving force trying to get this looked into.
Yeah. Valerie Trujillo, Harold's daughter, I could imagine what she's going through, knowing that there's still someone out in the loose that ever got punished for what he did. It's very important for us to solve this case.
When poor Harold got murdered, it started with people thinking it was a natural, and give us the progression of how we get to where it's an investigation.
July 6, 2016, Valerie arrived home to find her dad deceased at the front porch of his residence. She called law enforcement. They arrived at the scene. They see Mr. Vigil slumped down right in front of his door. He's already mummified. He's discolored. They knew he was a male, but they couldn't identify him. He was just so decomposed.
Harold's body was found 5 days after it was believed he was killed. His family and friends thought he was camping, so when no one heard from him for a few days, they weren't immediately concerned.
They didn't see any foul play, any evidence of there could have been some kind of struggle. They assumed that it was natural causes and he died of a heart attack. So they didn't do an autopsy on him. OMI just did a CAT scan on him. The family wants a cremation, so they cremate Mr. Vigil. After a couple months went by, they determined from the scan that was done that he was shot by somebody. The CAT scan showed a bullet in his spine. Deputy Salazar did a follow-up. He interviewed lots of people. Nobody heard any gunshots. Nobody heard nothing.
Okay.
During the follow-up investigation, Sergeant Robert Salazar returned to the crime scene to search for shell casings and bullets, but recovered nothing, making it unclear on the property where the shooter even fired at Harold from. Members of Harold's family and inner circle, including his friends and girlfriend, were questioned and quickly cleared, all except one.
All right, so we're going to put up here David Vigil first. Who is Harold's what relation? Their uncle and nephew, right?
Correct.
How old is he now?
78.
So he would have been 73. David was Harold's uncle, but because there was only a 10-year age difference between them, they were raised more like brothers. But as the years passed, that relationship became very strained. If it's true and he's our murderer, why would that have happened?
David got upset because David's mom gave Harold Sr. more property than what he got.
And things start getting heated and ugly.
Harold inherited a large amount of the compound-like property that the Vigil family resided on, which David felt was rightfully his. This began a feud that lasted decades, and a dispute over an easement road leading to the highway actually fueled it even further.
So what's the big fight over?
Is the gate that David Vigil keeps locked and doesn't allow family access into that easement.
So he just decided on his own to install this gate?
From what I understand, yes. Where that gate comes in, his home is the first home off of the highway. So he feels that that property is his and he's entitled to him only.
So he's the first house there.
David Vigil became enraged over what he thought were trespassers using his property as a shortcut. And about 10 years ago, he installed a gate to stop non-residents from using the easement road.
Everybody says he has a short temper, right?
Correct.
Or a short fuse and
Short
a bad
fuse,
temper.
Yes.
David Vigil actually tried to deter Harold and his family from using the road by placing nails on it and angrily kicking their cars as they passed. As tensions escalated and the family became more fearful, Harold took David to civil court, where David was forced to give all the family members remote openers to the gate.
Was David happy about that ruling, right?
No.
Okay, not happy.
No.
The odd thing is, the animosity between Harold and David had gone on for years. So if David did kill his nephew, why that weekend? Or was someone else responsible?
Okay, unknown suspect. While it's clear that David may have had a motive for wanting Harold dead, we can't rule out the possibility that somebody else could be responsible. Nothing looked like a robbery or a theft or anything stolen.
No forced entry to the home or nothing.
No forced entry.
He's got money on him.
Nothing stolen.
His truck was right there.
Okay. We already know one suspect that Harold was having issues with, but could he have had another enemy? We'll need to dig into his world of witnesses, re-examine the ballistics and forensic evidence, and reinvestigate the crime scene to see if we can get enough little pieces to build a circumstantial evidence case against whomever killed Harold. All right, let's go.
Shouldn't this place feel like home?
So Valerie will be here today, and who else will be here today?
His son, Harold Jr.
Okay.
And Harold Jr.'s wife, Rebecca.
Okay, great.
You know, another thing that they kind of worry about the family is that we start this, we open it up, and if nothing happens...
We're blowing the family wide open.
Right.
My dad passed away 2 years ago, and my heart aches for Valerie and Harold Jr. They still live on the family property, and in Valerie's case, she still lives in the same house where her dad was murdered, right next door to the man that they suspect killed him. Hello? How are y'all? It adds a whole nother level of trauma for them, and it makes it even more urgent for us to get them answers.
I just want to kind of start out a little bit so that we can get to know who your dad was.
He was very generous. Always there for friendly to him, for his family. He adored his granddaughter and great-granddaughter.
my dad, my partner.
What kind of hobbies did y'all do together?
Horseback riding, hunting, fishing, and
So he was the outdoor type, huh?
yeah, and I loved it. Hold on.
Take your time.
He's gone. I didn't think nothing would ever happen to him. But in a way, he's still with us in spirit. When I do something in the ranch or in the yard or something that he's still by me.
So, Valerie, I want to go back to the day you found your dad. Can you walk me through that a little bit?
I usually call him when I'm leaving to let him know that I'm coming on my way home. I was texting or calling and no response. I didn't know if he was camping with his friends or where he was at. I ended up going to the house and I was calling out to him and he wouldn't answer. So then I went around the corner and that's when I saw him there on the porch, the kitchen door. He just started screaming for my brother.
I can't even imagine what that was like.
Screamed and I heard her from the house, so I ran up there and...
At that time, y'all didn't know what the heck was going on, right?
No.
The day you found your dad, through the days that followed up until the funeral, how did you see David act?
I don't remember.
I don't even think he was around.
Did the whole family go to the funeral?
There was a lot of people.
Was he there?
No.
He didn't come? Why not?
Since he never talked to my dad. I mean, the way he was, the situation, he didn't go.
I would think he would fake it a little.
Oh, he has no heart.
So I'm hoping and praying that you guys get him.
It's pretty clear that Harold's kids think that David is the one who killed their dad. If so, we're going to need to prove it. And if not, we're going to need to figure out who it was and why. I just hope we don't let them down.
He didn't deserve to die.
When Harold Behill's body was discovered, severe decomposition made it nearly impossible to identify any external wounds, and his death wasn't initially ruled as a homicide. No autopsy was performed, and his home wasn't processed initially as a crime scene would have been. Steve, George, and Paul, Rio Arriba County Sheriff's Department.
Hi.
So we need to learn everything that we can about his gunshot wound, the weapon that fired it, and where his killer was positioned to try and figure out how he was shot, and more importantly, who did it.
Postmortem imaging is an absolute requirement in decomposed bodies because identifying skin injuries in a situation like this is very, very difficult. A postmortem CT did find a retained bullet. The bullet was recovered in between the 11th and 12th vertebrae by the spinous muscles. Because the bones are still in good shape, they could tell that the bullet went underneath these ribs through the lateral right side of the 12th vertebrae, and it also went through the spinal cord with a trajectory of going front to back, right to left, and upward.
The gunshot that severed Harold's spinal cord cut off the nerves to his legs, which could explain the unconventional way that his body collapsed, dropping straight down instead of falling over.
In the scene photos, it does look like there's a pretty large collection of maggots just above his belt on the right side of his abdomen. That could be the potential injury entrance.
Harold was shot facing his killer, and the bullet traveled in an upward trajectory. And while he was standing on steps, the upward angle actually appears a little unusual.
How are you doing?
Good.
So we've asked ballistic expert Chris Robinson to share his insight on the possible position of the shooter, and if we can determine from the wounds which type of gun was used.
The first thing I want you to understand is it's simple trajectory analysis. When I overlay the protractor, you can see that the shot entered his body at a 12-degree upward angle. To sever the spinal cord, it takes a great deal of force. So the shot goes through the fat, it goes through the muscle, and then it still has enough energy to sever your spinal cord. The bullet's going really fast.
Is there anything that you can tell? What kind of gun?
No, ma'am, other than the fact that I believe we're looking at a rifle. It could be a revolver, but it's a rifle caliber bullet. various rifle bullets can make this shot. If I shoot a .22 Magnum, you're talking about 1,400, 1,500, even 2,000 feet per second. So that may be a possibility.
What's the biggest gun y'all carry?
We carry 45 caliber.
Why can't it be a 45?
45 is a big, heavy, slow bullet. 45 is only going about 750. The bullet's half an inch in diameter, so when it goes in, all the energy is exerted into the body. The mass of the bullet is going to slow it down. A .22 Magnum is a small caliber, but the velocity of the bullet is so great that it will drive the bullet through the body.
Okay.
All right, now I want to show y'all exactly what the trajectory analysis shows me. We can go outside, and I'm going to set up a torso that I think will illustrate it more.
Okay.
You can use Steve.
According to Chris, it's likely a rifle was used, possibly firing a .22 Magnum round. But a .22 is one of the most commonly used bullets. So while it's something to keep in mind while we interview witnesses, it may be difficult to match the gun that killed Harold with the shooter. So maybe taking a closer look at the trajectory will be more helpful.
This is going to be our real height that 5'3" Harold would have been, standing on top of the steps, going into his house.
Chris has placed a ballistic dummy at the height of where Harold would have been standing on his steps when he was shot, and extended a string to represent the trajectory of the bullet, based on the angle of the wound.
That's impacting the ground at about 100 feet right there. That's about 100 feet from this mannequin. That's 33 yards. So that's the line how he would have had to have been struck to create the angle through his body.
Okay.
It has to be along this line.
Our goal is to determine where the shooter was positioned along the line. First step, close range.
The shot in this position, I can't think of the last time I saw somebody do a hip shot, right? There's no accuracy there shooting from the hip. Once I get back to about right here, maybe about 10 yards, I could create that angle by kneeling down. And then right there's perfect.
It doesn't feel like you would walk that close and then kneel too.
Right. From about 10 yards, Chris can create a scenario that aligns with the trajectory. But it does seem odd from that short a distance that a shooter would actually kneel instead of standing up.
I could continue to move back. Now I could be this far away and still make that shot.
Wow.
I create the same angle from a much greater distance.
When do you use a prone position shot?
Long distance for stability, and then if you want to be stealth, if you want to be kind of hidden.
Okay.
If you can make yourself more stationary, then the shot becomes easier.
He just has to wait for him to drive up, gets in position, gets ready as he gets out of his vehicle, and all he does is have to do is lay down.
You agree with that? You like that shot, Steve?
I think it's great.
We've come up with a theory for the position of the shooter. In reviewing the file, there's actually a wood pile across the street from Harold's home, with what appears to be a clear line of sight to Harold's front steps. And it's roughly 100 feet away, matching our trajectory analysis. Whether it was David Vigil or an unknown suspect who shot Harold, we might have just figured out how they did it without being seen.
I mean, that's pretty awesome right there. You know what I mean? It's where it touched the ground, man. That's the evidence talking right there.
Nice, nice.
Morning comes and sun rises, I see it round the bend. As I take my final breath, I feel this is the end.
From reading the reports, I thought that we'd be more in a rural area, but these are like trailers and smaller houses that are literally on top of each other.
Good Lord comes today, I hope his memory didn't lay me down.
We're going to be looking at where maybe the shot was taken from across the street. There was a wood pile, which everybody now believes is where the shooter was standing.
We're headed to the home of Harold Vigil, where he was fatally shot standing atop his steps. But this crime scene is unlike most we've ever done before, because David Vigil, our suspect, lives only about 100 yards away. Hopefully we don't run into him today.
I got it all set up.
Yep. So this is the victim's home. This is where the murder actually happened, right here under this carport.
And the truck is accurate.
Correct.
The wood pile was where? Point. Oh.
The wood pile is gone. Wood pile was on the other side of this fence. That tree kind of obstructs the view from that wood pile.
Oh.
Kind of makes it a little harder to him to get a clear shot.
Can it even make the shot from the wood pile?
Let me go stand up there where the victim would be.
All right.
If you're standing up from here, you'll definitely rule it out because you can see there's no
No way.
No path.
We threw out the woodpile now that we're out here, huh? Everybody's throwing out the woodpile theory?
Yeah.
Man, I've had lots of theories blown up at the crime scene, but this has got to be in record time. Now that we've learned that a shot hiding out in that woodpile doesn't work, we have to consider different scenarios, including different firearms.
If the white truck is blocking the door where Harold's going in, we don't care about any of this.
No.
Right.
And you don't like any of this because the tree messes up your shot. So we kind of like have a piece of pie here like this that you're focusing on,
right,
trying to figure out where the shooter could have been.
Right. This tree here, look at the size of it. The shooter could have easily been behind the tree. This tree is good cover for him.
All right.
Harold drives up here. From right here, as he parks, the shooter can see him.
Okay.
But of course, that's much closer distance than we expected over there.
If a shooter was hiding behind the tree, it actually places them closer to Harold than we thought.
You be the shooter, and I'll be Harold.
For concealment, it makes sense. But the big test will be, does it work with the angle and trajectory?
So we'll get out of the car. I got my cooler in one hand, I got my keys and phone in the other.
So he has a lot of concealment. He has the tree. So right now, he knows that he ain't gonna be seen. So he gets out, he comes here. Now he has a good path to make the shot. Harold.
Drop the cooler.
He's kneeling down, fires.
Keys and phone, drop here. From where you are right there, everybody thinks the direction and the angle work.
Yes.
Still, to me, it leaves open either a rifle or a pistol.
If you were going one way or the other, would you pick one or the other? Or you really think it's 50-50?
I don't think you can on this one.
You don't? Okay, fair enough.
Now that we've created a scenario where we figured out that the shooter was standing a lot closer to Harold, it makes his murder feel a lot more personal. The evidence suggests that their sole intent was to kill Harold. They didn't approach him, they didn't steal anything, they just turned and left. While Harold spent the next few minutes slowly dying and writhing in pain.
Harold sat right here for at least a minute, maybe two, before he died.
Yes. But he would still have some upper body movement to manipulate himself. His phone would be there. If it was in his pocket, then maybe he was able to get it out, just wasn't able to get a call off.
Right.
Ah, that's horrible. Kind of makes it all just sadder. When you listen to Dr. Paneri talk about the whole way that when the bullet impacted his spine, he just fell to the ground, but he could still use his hands, and he still lived for a couple of more minutes, it just makes it all more real, and it just emphasizes even more what a longer, more painful, more scary way it was for poor Harold to die. All right, well, that was very helpful. Thank you very much for coming over here and doing this with us.
Absolutely.
We keep changing our mind, guys. But I think that we cleared out a couple of things. How are you?
Right.
It's time for us to start talking to witnesses, starting with the last person to see Harold alive, his girlfriend Gladys. We're excited to talk to you. My name's Kelly. We're hoping that he might have opened up to her about any issues that he might have had with David Behill or anybody else.
So how long did you guys officially just start like dating, or recall?
Probably about 6 months before he passed away.
Oh, y'all were recently started dating then?
Yes.
Okay.
It hadn't been long. I went out with him. We went to dances. We went to dinner. The last time I saw Harold, he left my sister's. He had been there that night with us.
What time was this at, more or less?
Close to 11. Harold was a very quiet man. He went about his business. He wasn't the kind that would go out and pick a fight with somebody or make enemies. I never heard anyone say bad things about Harold either.
Did he ever mention anything about having problems with any family members?
Yes, David.
David?
Yes.
Do you remember what he mentioned?
Just that he was in a dispute and he had to go to court. He was never one to really talk about his issues.
Gladys was not aware of any problems that Harold had with anyone besides David, but they hadn't been together too long. So we need to speak to other witnesses in Harold's world who might know more. We've split up to see if Harold's friends or family might have known of any other enemies that Harold had.
Hello.
Are you Tina?
Hello, Tina.
Hello, may I speak with Tomas?
This is Tomas.
Harold was like a son to me, so we were very close.
It's sad because Harold was a hell of a nice guy.
My hunting partner, my horseback riding partner. He's a super nice, generous person. I was helping everybody.
Did he have any disputes with anybody that would have done this to him?
No, he got along with everybody. Harold had no enemies. His brother was the only one that I know that threatened him.
Do you think there's anybody else that would want to do this to your Uncle Harold?
The only person he ever mentioned was David.
Yes.
Was he having any problems with anybody else?
No. David and Harold were like two little kids, always kicking sand in each other's faces. That was their life.
He had threatened Harold. Well, he wanted to beat him up with a pipe. And he told him that he's going to get him.
Le tengo miedo que me mate. Si le tengo.
I'm afraid that he's going to kill me. Did it scare him?
Oh, yeah, it scared him a lot. He would even shake when he would talk with us about him. He would shake. His voice would shake.
He was scared of him. He always said, no, if they find me dead, that SOB kill me. No? But for a long time, I started carrying a gun with me. Because I said, if I see him, I'm not even going to talk to him. Because I know what he's up to.
And David is a bad person. And in fact, I'm afraid of him.
He actually told me, if you find me dead, you know what happened.
We always say as investigators that we're the ones giving a voice to the victims because they can't speak for themselves. Fortunately, through these witnesses, Harold's doing a lot of talking and may just be helping us solve his own murder.
The victim's home right here, and they said the Padillas lived directly behind him.
We're learning as much as we can about our suspect, David Vigil, and it's time that we talk to the witnesses in his world.
Hey there.
Fabian Padilla lives on the family compound, and he was there the day Harold's body was discovered. We're hoping that he's going to remember how David was acting that day.
Are you Fabian?
Yes, sir.
Paul Colomb, Sheriff's Office. Nice to meet you.
How are you, sir? I'm Kelly. Nice to meet you.
Fabian, nice to meet you.
We reopened the case with Harold.
Sad. That was a sad one.
Well, you were there that day they found Harold, right?
Yes, ma'am.
That had to be a pretty horrible sight.
I tell you, that's one way I don't think anybody should go.
Yeah.
Stay there for 5 days, bro. Like, I didn't recognize him.
That day that they found Harold, how did David act when he realized Harold was dead?
All I saw was David coming in, and David says, "Ve lo que pasa con los que andan cagando y falando." Look at what happens to the ones that are screwing around.
What does that mean, messing around?
Screwing around? I don't know who, what, where.
With the gate, with money, with what? It wasn't clear.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. There's something I don't know about.
We know that David had a tense relationship with Harold, but that's a cold thing to say after seeing his nephew dead. Maybe he was just expressing his indifference over Harold, but that odd statement is a beautiful piece of circumstantial evidence.
That statement alone.
That's what get when they mess around.
I think he's headed outside of the emergency room. The bench.
According to the file, David and Harold had separate dealings with the Valdez family over the leasing of ranch land. Considering that a property dispute is at the center of this case, Peter Valdez may have some information that can help us.
Tell me a little bit about Harold.
Harold was a nice person. We got along good, and my mom leased the ranch to Harold for over 18 years.
Okay.
Harold had a horse.
Okay.
Harold had a horse at my mom's property, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the horse got killed.
Do you know how it got killed?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't know how it got killed. So then I was back at my mom's, and Harold came by. He was upset with David, Rocky. He got
there, Rocky also.
And Rocky told him, lo que le pasó al caballo te va a pasar a ti. That means that what happened to the horse is going to happen to Harold.
When Harold was telling you that, how was he acting?
When Harold's talking to me, he's scared, like, I guess he's going to kill me. Me va a matar.
The allegation that David killed Harold's horse has never been substantiated. But if it is true, it's not only a cruel act, it's yet another time that David expressed his hostility toward Harold.
And then my Aunt Josefina died, David was her caretaker. So then, when Josefina dies, Josefina's property is supposed to be my Uncle Joe's, pero it's Rocky's property.
According to Rocky?
Yeah. My mom used to go with Joe to the courts, and David was there. And then we're gonna have a hearing on Friday for the final signing of the papers for Joe's property.
Right.
Pero my mom disappeared on Tuesday night.
What?
Right before the hearing.
So you remember it was a Friday and your mom disappears on Tuesday? Dang. According to police reports, Peter Valdez's mother, Helen, was found murdered 4 months after she went missing. That case is still unsolved, but it sure seems that Peter believes that David could have been responsible.
David is very vindictive. Oh yeah, you cannot turn your back on him.
There is insufficient evidence to prove that David killed Helen. All right, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
But if David was involved, this might explain why, after years of feuding, David chose that particular night to murder Harold. They had a court setting to go to court to talk about the gate dispute for July the 11th, where David was going to be ordered, they hoped, to leave the gate open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And Harold ends up getting shot July 1st or 2nd.
The hearing.
And now in Helen, right before the lawyer, right before the signing, right before the hearing, look what happens to the people involved on the other side of the legal dispute when you're dealing with David Behill.
Right.
Nice, nice. Hello.
Good morning.
How are you? We're continuing our investigation into our prime suspect, David Behill, for the murder of his nephew, Harold. Arnold Garcia was a very close friend with intimate knowledge of the strained relationship between them. We're hoping that he might have some pieces to add.
I know it's been a few years back, but what do you remember?
It was a shock. I know Harold for at least 40 years. Harold was the nicest guy in the world, you know, good-hearted, respectful. He was 100% best friend in the world. He had so many friends and everybody loved him that we used to almost fight for him. No, bullshit, you already took time with them, now it's our time to hang around with us. No, he was the kind of person that he didn't have enemies. There was only one enemy that he had, David. David was like a bully. He always used to give me a hassle. He hassled everybody. But one day, look what he did to us. Showed me a pistol. So I told him, you think I'm not protecting my own self? I have my own pistol. He didn't know what to do. He just got his pistol turned around, got it, and he struck it left a la very, and he didn't come screwing around with me again.
How long ago was this?
Maybe 8 years.
So, like a year before this?
Yeah, give or take, within that time.
Was it a revolver, semi-automatic?
It was a revolver.
What? Maybe what caliber do you think?
It could have been a 22.
We know from our examination of the ballistics evidence that it's possible that Harold was shot with a .22 caliber weapon. And Arnold is saying that David threatened him with what could have been a .22 caliber revolver right before the murder. Could that be our murder weapon?
And you know, Harold was the kind of person, he wasn't afraid of nothing. But he was afraid of David.
Thank you for coming down.
Harold's niece, Velma, has been a driving force in this case, and she might be our most important witness yet. We know about the house and the property that started the bitterness way long ago. And then there's the whole fight about the gate and the easement. We want to find out every single thing she knows about the property dispute and the history of David and Harold's relationship. To understand why two brothers would not like each other, the family history. Okay, so go back in time. What was the first thing?
My grandma got sick and got elderly. She probably had dementia by then. So then Harold started to care for my grandma. She transferred all the estate over to Harold.
Before she died, she gave it to Harold. Okay.
June 6, 2016. Harold and I took him to court. I said, David has to pay for the gate and pay for the remotes for everybody.
And eventually, that's what happened?
Yes.
Okay.
Judge Beffer went to go tell Harold and I
Then we had to shake David's hand, and he told Judge Purfer, "You should worry about me when I come up missing." Outside the courthouse, Harold grabbed my arm and he held me so tight. And he was crying uncontrollably, telling me that he has a feeling David's gonna kill him. He looked very scared.
A month before Harold ends up dead. In reviewing the court records, there's a recording of a 2015 hearing where Harold testified to David's violent threats. The trembling in his voice speaks volumes, and it puts in perspective the level of fear he had for David.
What about his past history makes you afraid, sir? Can you tell the judge why you're afraid, sir?
I'm afraid he'll kill me.
Based on everything that we just learned, just what are you thinking about wanting to go approach David? You want to talk to him, keep it easy?
We're going to tell him, hey, we're following up on this homicide. At that time, we can encourage him to come with us and talk to us.
All right, let's go. We know that David V. Hill had a motive to kill Harold, and we found witnesses that recall David threatening him. We know he had the opportunity because he lived right next door. And now we may have found the means, putting a gun in his hands right before the murder. David's intimidation struck fear in Harold and in this whole community. And if he's our killer, he needs to be off the streets.
David, Rear River Sheriff's Office, come talk to us.
I'm Deputy Martinez, this is Deputy Colom.
Hopefully we can catch him in some little inconsistencies and strengthen the case. And I want to listen in but hide out so that he doesn't get spooked and doesn't talk to us at all.
We're following up on a case that happened in 2016 regarding Harold Sr.
I don't know nothing about nobody. You want to take me to court? I can take you to court, but they don't have enough proof. Take me to court, I can take you.
You get along with your brother Harold?
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys get along good?
Okay.
No problem.
He said they got along.
What do you think happened to Harold, your brother? You don't know?
I'm not here.
Hello, how you doing?
Hello.
Who are you, ma'am? Okay. So who are you to him? Your niece?
Was my brother.
Okay.
So we're talking to David V. Hill, and all of a sudden his niece shows up. We don't know if she sympathizes with David or suspects him, but it's an unexpected wrinkle we now have to account for in our questioning.
What do you think happened to your brother?
Well, I know for a fact that somebody killed him. From there, I don't know.
What was the dispute about out here, David, with the gate?
My mother and father gave me this property from there onto here. And then Harold told me, "You don't got nothing, go back where you from. Go back." And from there on, no more friends.
Was there a threat towards Harold of death with a pipe out here over that gate?
No. I went to the fence door and told me to look at the gate. And I'm not going to close everything.
So there were no other threats?
No threats, no.
But there were bad feelings over the gate.
Yeah.
You told me when you got here, you and Harold got along great all the time. Well, now you don't. See, your story keeps changing.
Everybody's telling us that Harold said that if he dies, you're the one that did it. You threatened him. He cried.
I can prove it.
Why was he so scared of you? Let me ask you this, Mr. Why is everybody in this community so scared of you?
You care who killed Harold?
I don't care.
You don't care. Okay. Why would he?
¿No te importa quién lo mató?
Oh, my God.
You can't even look us in the eye.
Okay, that's enough.
David V. Hill was apathetic and shrugged off every question we asked. And when confronted with more pointed inquiries about his involvement, he said, "Prove it."
You had him saying he had no issues with Harold. The gate wasn't a big deal. And now you got him saying, I don't care what happened to Harold, showing no remorse. That much talking, y'all should be happy. Good morning, boys.
Morning.
Y'all eating some breakfast, getting fired up? We've talked to all of our witnesses. We have re-examined the forensic evidence and the crime scene, and now it's time for us to review everything that we've learned. We started off this week wanting to address that it's not some random person. There wasn't a single person in Harold's world that knew of an enemy that he had besides David.
You know, he got along with Everybody.
Harold had no enemies.
He wasn't the kind that would go out and pick a fight with somebody or make enemies.
Is there anything that makes you want to go back and look at unknown suspects again or harder or anything like that?
No.
No. That leaves us with one remaining suspect on our board. Let's go over all the little things that point directly to David being the one who killed Harold.
He's mad over the fact that Harold got this property.
That it ought to be his. And that's the beginning of the resentment. And then in 2015, the gate easement thing blew up.
Right.
And then the whole court proceeding where you can hear Harold so scared with his voice shaking.
Can you tell the judge why you're afraid, sir?
I'm afraid he'll kill me.
Then David said what happened to that horse could happen to you.
I guess he's gonna kill me.
Threatening with the pipe, threatening with the gun, the pistol that Red told us about. That could be our murder weapon.
But one day, look what he did to us. Showed me a pistol.
He pointed a pistol at him. Harold warned them all, if I end up dead, David did it.
He always said, no, if they find me dead, that SOB, kill me.
And then when he is found, everybody's hysterical and crying except for who?
David.
David.
Carol killed Harold?
I don't care.
You don't care?
In the whole wide world, who would be out there wanting to kill Harold be him?
David.
David. We've built a circumstantial case against David Behill for the murder of his own nephew, Harold. Now it's time to present that evidence to First Judicial District Attorney Mary Carmack. Go, man. You're waiting for justice. The family's waiting for justice. They've been waiting for a long time.
Most definitely.
Hello?
Hello. Morning.
Good morning. Thank y'all for coming all the way over here.
You're welcome.
We met with the district attorney. I got some good news for you guys. She feels we have enough probable cause to move forward. There's a couple things that me and George have to finish up. And once we do that, we're hoping that we can finally get you guys some closure.
Thank you.
Been a long time coming, huh?
Very long.
Yep. And I told them a long time ago they're gonna get you. He wouldn't want me to give up and not do nothing. And that's what I tried to do. So it's the best news I could hear.
Everywhere we went, though, everybody just said wonderful things about your dad. And everybody was maybe just finally ready to tell everything they knew, even being scared. And that's why we're sitting here.
The truth always comes out.
Sometimes it takes way too long, though, you know?
Yeah. I believe he is looking down at us, and I'm sure he's smiling.
Just be patient a little bit longer.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Yes. All the hard work you guys did.
You're welcome. Harold was a good man, and he was a really great dad. You can see that in his kids.
Thank you so much.
They never stopped fighting to get their dad justice, and today they're closer than ever. I bet their dad would be proud.
Be fine.